white gesso is my friend. I don't know what possessed me to go through and paint all of my canvases with a black or gray gesso. Black or gray gesso is great, but it really only needs to be used for certain projects, and it's hard to get colors to pop on that sort of a background. So I'm going to repaint this canvas with white gesso. It's going to take 2 layers, and then I'm going to do a new acrylic painting over top and use one of my new Posca pens to do the lines. Working with analog media, like painting on a canvas, is so relaxing. In my day job, I'm a web developer, and I look at a screen all day. And sure, I'm creating things all day, but there's nothing really tangible, nothing I can hold in my hand. Here we go on layer 2, by the way. The first layer wasn't enough. So yeah, working with analog art materials, such as brushes and canvases and paints, gives me something tangible to hold in my hands at the end of the day, and it really gives me a great sense of satisfaction to finish a project. And anytime I can get away from a computer screen is probably good time. And here we go, we're almost done. Now I let this dry fully before I did any other work on it, so it was a great time to stop and go get a cup of tea and get set up for the next shoot. I actually drew my image lightly in pencil before I went over with darker pencils. The darker pencils are really just for your benefit, so you can actually see what it is I'm working on. I prefer to use really light pencils usually, but I am not the world's best videographer, and I could not get those light line art pencils to show up well for the camera. So here we go. We have us waving Pêche, and he's saying hello. I picked up some flesh. You can hear the inverted quotation marks there, right? Some flesh colored paint, but it turned out being nice and peachy, so I'm going to use it for Pêche's head. And then I believe that's phthalo green, P-T-H-A-L-O green, which wound up being terrible, but you'll see later on what it wound up looking like. I am severely out of practice on this one. Oh, here we go. Here comes the phthalo green. Oh, just the worst. No, do not like. It wound up pooling, and then look at that. Just came right off again. I don't know if it's because my paint is old or it's just the composition of phthalo green, but I wound up having to completely dry my brush and then try applying it again. I don't know why I didn't just abandon this color and use something else, because I'm really not happy with how this green turned out. It's more like a watercolor than an acrylic, really, when I was playing around with it. Little unfortunate, but I plowed ahead. Here I am going in with the peachy color that I picked up, and oh, this is why I usually do light pencils. The B in my HB pencil is just smearing and mixing with the paint. The paint had a little too much water at first and was just slurping up that lead. If I would have had like a 2H or a 6H, I think it's a 6H pencil is what I usually use. I would have been better off using that, but then you wouldn't have been able to see the line art at all, and this would have just been a big blank canvas with splooches of color here and there. I really do need to get some new brushes as well. Most of my really fine brushes I wound up putting with my ink work, all my ink supplies, and once I've put a brush in ink, I really don't want to put it in paint. I want to keep it nice and clean for just ink work. And here we go. Painty, painty, painty. Yeah, that peach color is perfect for a peach. I don't know why they call that a flesh color. So I'm not worried too much about being precious about kissing up to the lines, because I'm going to be going over everything with a black Posca pen later. This particular style of illustration that I like to do requires thick black lines, or somewhat thick black lines, as we'll find out. Usually I paint that with a thin, flexible paintbrush, but this time I thought I'd try a Posca pen and see if maybe my blood pressure would stay low. And here we go. I switched to a square rounded brush, just so I could put some shading in on his big peach head. And here's me using a little bit of dry brush to smear that around and get me a little bit more gradient. Sort of makes it look like he has a chin strap. Also, can I say, having worked with Procreate and doing my art digitally for so long, I've gotten very spoiled with the eraser. Normally I would just paint over my lines, not think anything about it, and then clean it up with an eraser afterwards. But you can't do that with analog art. At least when you're doing with acrylics, there's no erasing. Ugh, that phthalo green. I should just throw it out. It is really not doing things for me. Although I think it would look pretty cool as like dragon hide or something, where that natural variation in the paint can be used to an advantage. It's just not quite what I was looking for this piece. So Pêche's outfit is actually based on an outfit I used to wear in high school. I had a rugby shirt that shrunk in the wash. Bought that secondhand for 63 cents from the Bonneville Bargain Boutique. And then my jeans were my dad's blue jeans, and I wore them until there were knee holes and bum holes, and I would half patch it and half leave it unpatched. Listen, this was the 90s, grunge was in, and I had the best pants ever. Of course, my pants back then were a lot baggier. Pêche is wearing more like skinny jeans that have been distressed. Oh yeah, this blue is giving me the sort of coverage I was wanting from my greens, but that I didn't get. That's looking a lot more how I was thinking it should look. So I first thought up Pêche about 20 years ago when I started doodling him in the margins of a notebook. His first name was Peach Boy, but I don't really know that it applies to him anymore. It's kind of generic, and I'm not too sure he's altogether a boy. I mean, he's a fruit. He's a peach. So Pêche seemed like a better name for him. I tend to put him in the clothes that I own. So this outfit is an old shrunk down rugby shirt that I owned in high school, like I said before. But I've never owned orange sneakers. That is more like a wish list item. I would love to have sneakers that look that orange. I have had neon orange loafers before. Those have been amazing. but they get dirty really quickly. I would still love to have sneakers. So the only reason why Pêche has blue eyes is because I really like the contrast between bright blue and a peachy color. That is literally the only reason why his eyes are blue. Pêche has actually had a number of jobs over the years, but he's always been mostly self-employed. I don't share the backstory very much, but when he was a kid, he was a industry or brand representative for a type of peach juice. Yay, exciting. So sometimes you'll see in my other art big billboards with Pêche holding up a canned drink. And here we go with the browns for the stem. Yes, I always use 2 browns for his stem. One dark brown for the long part of the stem, and then a lighter brown for the cut portion. I don't even know why he has a stem. He was never attached to a tree. He was born with a peach head. Bless his poor mother. But there you go. His character design has a little stem. Maybe it's a fake stem that he just puts up there like his leaf. Sometimes he loses his leaf. It'll fall off. But I assume it always just grows back. Pêche anatomy is awfully strange. I've done a sticker once with showing his skull, what it looks like inside of the peach, and I made it rather demonic. I don't know if it actually looks like that. I suspect not. There is a skull somewhere in there though. It's just, I'm going to use hand wavy for a lot of Pêche anatomy. A lot of it is just hand wavy. In the beginning, Pêche's biggest nemeses were little old ladies who were determined to bake his head into a pie. Nowadays, he doesn't have little old ladies as his nemeses anymore, but it is part of his character to be a little uncomfortable around anyone baking pies. So back to Pêche being self-employed. These days he is a web developer and web designer like myself, mostly because it's easier to write what I know, and Pêche is also great for telling the jokes and stories about things that happen to me in real life. Here I am using a Posca pen for the second time. I've never used it on canvas before. It's a little challenging, but it's also a lot easier than trying to use a thin brush to draw these lines. I don't mind how it looks. I'm using I believe the 3, like the thicker Posca pen instead of a skinny one. It just, on canvas and on this paint, the skinny one was just splurting everywhere. I really like how this is coming together, actually. They always look like crap right up until the point when I put the line art over top. I'm just not the best at painting small things like this. Usually my acrylic paintings are a lot bigger. So yeah, anyways, Pêche's nemesis these days, being as he's a web developer, are usually other people he works with, sometimes clients, sometimes just friends and family who don't understand what it is he does for a living. It's a little on the nose, but it's also kind of fun. I did a comic about Pêche putting stickers on his laptop, and he gets right shirty about people questioning him for that practice, as do I. Pêche is really just me, but with a peach head. coming up to the hardest part of this picture, which is going to be drawing his big round peachy head. I saved this one for last because it's the hardest. I tackle these sort of things in sections so that it's a little more reliable to try to hit my marks rather than drawing the thing all together. Yay! We did it! Anyhow, if you've enjoyed this, please like and subscribe, and leave a comment if you have any questions. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!